Marvel Spotlights, for those that don't know, are the projects from Marvel, in this case Echo, that brings more grounded, character-driven stories to the screen. Though Echo's story won't have the biggest MCU risk and continuity as other projects, the story will still focus on street-level stakes at play. We open the episode with this blue spiral illuminating light and slowly churning in a counterclockwise rotation. According to Cha-Cha dance and tradition, they move in a counterclockwise rotation. Seeing how the creator has designed many natural cycles that move in clockwise motion, they express their humility and human imperfection by moving in the opposite direction. I thought this could be a reflection of that tradition. Ingram, an artist who's part of the Cha-Cha Nation, mentioned sashes with the similar pattern are designs that represent two snakes always uncoiling and recoiling. The coil design evokes the great serpent that represents the great spirit of the underworld. Similar coil designs can be seen in some of the mounds in the Cha-Cha homeland in Mississippi as well. This also reminds me of Kahorchi's episode of What If and how the water in the cave underground was blue from the Tesseract. This water underground is illuminating that same shade of blue as well. Both could share similar messages or interpretations, but like we said in Kahorchi's episode, interestingly, many Native American legends speak of their people coming from below ground or a different world and emerging into this one. This continues to line up with those stories. We're introduced under earth to this woman, or being, who I believe after flaking the clay away becomes Chafa, the first Cha-Cha's name. They sort of have this curved designs on their forehead and cheekbones. These designs are traditional, especially in Cha-Cha pottery. A lot of their ancestors brought these designs to Oklahoma during the time of the removal. In ancient times, these decorations are believed to have represented the patterns of nature, movements of the stars, the wind, or the sun. Chafa and this person also share the same tattoos on their chins. Across a lot of Native American culture, the tattoo generally came as a mark of a major event or transition in your life, which makes sense because this is their emergence story. We also see a red-headed bird fly down onto Chafa. It's the red-headed woodpecker, which is a legend in Cha-Cha history. The woodpecker, known as the Biskinic, which is the Cha-Cha name for a scissor-tailed woodpecker. The woodpecker was said to have escaped the Great Flood and become friend to the Choctaw people, warning them when danger approached. We sort of see this here with the bird flying down to Chafa before the cave collapses. Echo, though in the comics a member of the Blackfeet tribe, in the MCU is a member of the Choctaw Nation, specifically in Oklahoma, which covers nearly 11,000 square miles in southeastern Oklahoma. Their origins are told through different stories, and this one tells us the story of the Choctaw people's emergence from below earth. One oral story of their creation that I think we're following here tells of the creator forming the Choctaw people from clay, also called Lukfinia, the fat of the earth. Hashata-Li, meaning God, created their bodies from clay on a piece of the Naniwaye Creek. There's a cave that they then passed through, and the earth mound the ancestors climbed onto where they saw the sun. When their bodies hardened, God said, "If you stay here, you'll prosper," and that's one of their stories. Their creation story, where the emergence was dangerous, the cave collapsing upon them, and then they're ushered through the passage to earth. The designs and markings of below earth are outstanding. It looks like clay. They rose from the water in earth, the blue crystalline shadows, the gold lit cracks, the tones are just remarkable. Even after she drinks the water, the illumination of the spirals on their palms light their face and the sheen of gold. It's just all so beautiful. When they reach atop earth, the sun beams down on them and their body starts to flake instead of harden, similar to what I mentioned in the creation story of them being from clay, so it looks like under the sun they dried and broke into flakes. Choctaw ancestors learned to mix things with clay to stop it from cracking and breaking, but under the sun it would dry out and crack, and that's what we're seeing right now. Chafa and this man have the same tattoo. The design, I believe, was created by Ian Thompson, who is credited in the credits, but also the Tribal Historic Preservation Officer, the Director of Historic Preservation Department, and the Tribal Archaeologist. According to their website, the design is slightly modified style from the Choctaw homeland. The imagery refers to aspects of traditions Choctaw view of the cosmos. After Bonnie tells young Maya the first Choctaw people story through hand shadows, they begin signing back and forth about family. Also, as a breakdown, should be noted that shadow puppets, traditional forms of glove, string, rod, and body puppets, have played major roles in religious and social lives of some Native American cultures. Evidence of it spanning way back as far as the 19th century, I'm sure even later, shows how different forms of shadow theater play different roles. I also love that young Maya has this bunny doll. I think this is a Chukfi, a Choctaw word for rabbit. I know this because on the Choctaw language lesson page of the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma website teaches you some phrases, and I think this little girl in the same video has the same stuffed Chukfi as young Maya. Also, this site's just incredible. You guys should go check it out if you're watching the series because it teaches you so much about their history. Then we meet Maya's dad and mom, William Lopez, who we've seen in Hawkeye, and her mom, who so far is only referred to Mama or Mom. We don't know her name yet. We didn't learn this before, but Echo's mom also uses sign language, and Echo's grandparents know how to sign. The grandpa is still learning though, so we don't know if it's her biological dad, could be a boyfriend or stepdad. Regardless, we genuinely know nothing of Echo's mom, but I think we will in this series. Echo's mom left her mom and dad, but we know that's not the case here. It also seems like from interviews with the Echo director, Sydney Freeland, she plans on stepping away from Echo we know in the comics. We want to give her a bigger story, and that's okay. Realistically, our lives from childhood to adulthood will always determine our values and moral compass, and Echo has a lot of life that she's been living. We need to see it to understand who she is and the cause of her actions. We're seated at the fire with Maya's parents and grandparents. Chola, played played by the esteemed Tantu Cardinal, and Scully, played by Graham Greene. They are Maya's mom's parents, so on her mom's side. But talking about Biscuit, Maya's cousin, whom we meet later, his dad grabbed a peach pie, ran into the Red River butt naked, and loved peaches.
Everybody should love something that much.
A note that the Red River passes through the southwestern part of Oklahoma and is the second largest basin in the southern Great Plains. Behind them in the tent, you can see Bonnie and Maya still doing their shadow puppeteer with animals, and I think Bonnie is completely proficient in making a fox. We're then reminded we're in Tamaha, Oklahoma, and it's 2007, which is 17 years before we're introduced to our Echo and Hawkeye. And before we leave, we see another woodpecker like the one Chafa had under Earth. What I think is interesting and sad is that a couple sources said that when a sapsucker bird lands in your yard, you'll receive news. It may be good or it may be bad, but you would hear of it that day if you saw that news bird. This is probably why Chola looked a little puzzled and worried, because what news would she be getting this late? Later in the car, Scully mentions ancestors whispering to you again. That is going to happen close to her family. Someone cut the brake lines to their family truck, and Maya had to sit beside her dying mother after colliding with another vehicle. We even see the giant shard in little Maya's leg, which really breaks my heart. This is how we find out how she lost her leg, and I don't think this is intentional, but like Echo in the comics, when her father dies, leaving his handprint on her face and blood, it sort of resembles Echo's mom's face marked by the accident, or for me, it just reminded me of that. What really hits, and we'll see more of this later, is when Maya cries, it's silent because we're sitting in her perspective. Like Netflix's Daredevil, the sounds were immaculate, crisp, and so easy to make out. This show will probably focus and highlight Maya's other senses like we did Daredevil's hearing. There are a couple of times Maya reacts and we hear nothing, the audio is wiped and we hear little noises of her heartbeat. This scene when she hijacks the motorcycle and when she's jumped during the brawl. This gets some toast reported on Twitter. Maya's powers will not be the same as the comic. She'll be empowered by her ancestors when threatened. We know she's not imbued with the powers yet, but I think when she's threatened, she focuses and we still ourselves along with her and coexist in our element. Again, we did this with Daredevil when he turned off all the lights and just fight everybody. We also learned this is how Maya loses her leg, and this sweet little girl is just absorbing all of this, taking it all in, and she doesn't know that her mom hasn't made it yet. When the father says,
I found out who cut the brakes. They're taken care of.
Chola's first reaction is, oh, you think knowing another family was destroyed makes me feel better? An eye for an eye ain't for everybody. And when you do that, you're A, making things worse, and B, it doesn't rectify your dead wife. It only puts more pain in the world. And I think this is a lesson Echo will have to deal with and learn as someone always seeking revenge and never fixing the real problem, which is her deep-rooted anger, especially now that we see that she believes she's the reason for her mom's death. Also, in this discussion, we learn that Echo has an uncle. Chola says those Lopez boys are trouble. We know that's Henry, and we saw Henry in Echo's promotional material not too long ago. He also mentions Henry got a job in New York. Safe to assume Henry set him up doing shady business with Fisk. To be fair, he was already doing shady business. It's just now in New York and for Fisk. This is Natasha and Yelena had to be separated from their family. I just never want to see a young child crying and chasing after someone they love. New York, just like that. We don't see a hint of Avengers Tower yet. We know from Brad Winderbaum's interview we'll finally figure out who owns Avenger Towers this season. Maya's in class, she's all alone. We've seen this flashback in episode 3 of Hawkeye with her reading her teacher's lips. Then we're taken to her bedroom where she and her dad are playing with the shadow puppets again, and it shows even if school stinks, it doesn't matter as long as she can come home to her fun dad.